welcome to Super Respectable. My name is David Lewis, and with me at the beach, actually, I'm not at the beach, I'm just at home, but Tosh is in lovely tropical Vancouver, Canada. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, there's a secret part of Vancouver where it's sunny, sunny weather, blue waters. I'm the
For
only
the
one here.
audio listeners, we're on a Zoom call, so if you go to our YouTube page, you'll be able to see that Tosh has the
Yeah,
background of the beach, which is
yeah,
very nice to look at.
that's true. And this one beach has amazing free Wi-Fi connection, so I'm just on my
Incredible.
laptop. I'm just
It looks
hanging
pretty
out.
quiet.
Yeah, it's because COVID. There's no quarantine. Everyone's at home. It's just me. I quarantine on the beach.
I'll let you know when it becomes high tide. Is high tide when the water comes
Yeah,
towards you?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Let me
I'll let you
know.
know.
Hopefully we'll time it out so the podcast recording ends just as high tide begins.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
How's it? It's the end of the year. It's our last podcast of the year. It's the last episode. As of 2 hours ago, we've had over 1,125 downloads on Simplecast, which is pretty
Wow,
cool.
that's very precise.
I
I'm
remembered
very
it.
pleased with that statistic. Thank you to all our
Yeah.
listeners. Thank you to our parents and siblings for repeatedly downloading our
Yes, our
podcast.
partners and our friends. Thank you so much. It's been
Thank you so
fun,
much.
and it's a good way to cope. And it's the end of the year. Can you imagine? There's only like a week left in this year, and it seems like I don't know if we're as positive as everyone makes it out to be. It's not seeming so great in other places around the world,
It's
but
horrible. It's the year that never ends. So hopefully, the year does actually end on the 31st, as is normal.
pretty.
But
So what's I was reading the news. Your home province of Ontario is going into 1 month lockdown starting on
mm,
Saturday. That's crazy, huh? 28-day lockdown in the biggest province of Canada.
yeah, and it's interesting because I guess maybe this new variant that they're talking about is playing into their decision making.
Yeah, definitely.
But if I look at the numbers in Ontario and I compare it to the Netherlands, it's totally different.
Really?
Like here in the Netherlands, we're at 13,000 cases a day for a population of about 17, 18 million people.
Yeah.
And Ontario has, I don't know, 15 million, 14 million people.
Yeah.
And they're at like 1,500 cases a day. I could be way off, but it's definitely lower. So the threshold for having a lockdown is a lot lower in Canada, which is probably a good thing because the Netherlands is taking a very different approach, as we've discussed in previous weeks. Um,
Yeah. I First of all, I love this idea of like a new variant. It sounds like some
the
type of
mutant.
like the mutant, like in a James Bond film that the villain's going to release. It's yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Like I told you, my sister lives in London. She was gonna go to her in-laws for the holidays, but she can't even leave London to go outside of London. As of now, they can't come back to Canada. So it's just a strange time, just generally. And I'm not sure, but like I was watching the news reports, and like there were even people in Ontario. They're like, they filmed the B-roll or C-roll of people walking, and people were like walking around with no masks and stuff like that. And I was just like, come on, people, just wear your fucking mask. Like it's not that difficult. Like I think we've all had enough of this at this point. Let's try to get through it. But
Yeah, I mean, I kind of respect Australia and New Zealand's method. Because apparently now in Melbourne, they're going to games and theaters and shows
yeah,
because they had such a severe lockdown that it brought things down to a manageable level.
yeah,
I mean, it's horrible for everybody who had to endure that, but I really struggle with these rules where they change it every 2 weeks and they say,
yeah,
now people get confused. They don't know what the rules are. And especially in the UK, UK is very complicated because they have Northern
yeah.
Ireland, Wales, England, Scotland, and they've all got different rules. And then within England, they have different tiers.
Wow.
Um, so it's a real challenge to try and figure out what you're supposed to do. Um, and in
Yeah,
Ontario, they kind of segmented it by Northern Ontario and rest of Ontario, as far as I
yeah,
know. But I
yeah.
kind of figure if you're in Northern Ontario, you got lots of social distancing happening. So I
Just
don't know what the case numbers are like there.
default, right? There's just
Just don't
farmland and
pass it
everything.
on to the polar bears or the squirrels.
Yeah. Well, actually, just before I went on with you, I heard that Antarctica finally got infected with
Yeah,
COVID. Yeah, yeah,
so it's
36
everywhere.
people. It's everywhere. So I don't know. And then now they're also having a lot of people go out and get the vaccines publicly. President-elect Biden got it. Dr. Fauci got it. They're trying to promote people to make it seem that it's safe. Like,
Vice President Pence got it, but
yeah,
Trump hasn't had a public vaccination yet, has he?
yeah. In my mind, Pence and Biden and Trump are no longer in office. It's just a matter of days now. But he
Let's
got
hope
it.
so.
He got it. So I don't know. Do you think you'd get it? I know we discussed this kind of, or do you think you could wait it out a little bit?
I mean, I'll get it when it's my turn to get it.
How is it your turn in the Netherlands? Is there a system? Do you know?
They just today, I think, approved the Pfizer vaccine.
Yeah.
Maybe also the Moderna one.
Yeah.
So it'll be rolled out pretty soon. But I don't think a healthy young individual like myself will be front of the queue.
Yeah. I was reading this. I was reading when the vaccines were coming out a few weeks back. I was reading. I forgot which one it was. The company, I think, was making it at cost. They weren't making profit of it. And I was thinking, like, first, I think that's bullshit. I think they're totally making some money off the side. These pharmaceutical companies are totally greedy. But at the same time, like, you could make say it was for profit, right? You could make so much money off this thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, these companies could already billion-dollar conglomerates. They could be trillion-dollar conglomerates, but they have to, right? Like, I mean, there has to be some cost of manufacturing and then like a little bit of labor and stuff. And no one's that good. Like, these companies are not that open-minded. There has to be even like a cent markup or 2 cent markup on these things, no?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they did it at cost. That's crazy if they didn't make a profit off of it.
I think it's more of a PR stunt, like, something they write and say, but like, they find a way to like include an extra couple cents here and there and stuff. Because like even the logistics of making billion, like, you hear about, this country ordered 20 million of the vaccine, this one ordered 20 million of that. Like, that's crazy, 20 million like vials of vaccine, what that looks like. That's insanity,
I don't understand that aspect. Like, how do they ramp up production so much? And what are the ingredients? I know so little about this that I think we should have an episode where we have an expert help us explain vaccines 101.
Totally.
I don't know what the ingredients are in a vaccine. I am operating from zero knowledge.
Yeah, like yeah.
So to be able to produce like hundreds of millions of something, you need to have an absolute massive quantity of whatever each ingredient is, and sometimes they're pretty random things, I would imagine.
It's so far from our realm of speciality. Like,
we're scientists, but we're political scientists.
Yeah, so even science, it's so interesting how it works. I don't even know, because I remember learning. This blew my mind too. You know how KFC has their like famous 9 herbs and spices recipe or whatever like that secret recipe. So
that's like, a good. Sorry, just to interrupt. That's gonna. Good thing you mentioned KFC. It's part of today's topic.
Awesome. I love KFC. But I remember reading that like the way KFC worked was like, now they're in all these countries around the world and they have this special secret patented recipe, but how do they share it with people without like a distributor stealing the recipe? Apparently the original recipe, only like 9 people have like access to it. It's like locked up in a vault at KFC.
Wow, like the Coca-Cola recipe.
Like the Coca-Cola recipe. So apparently what they do is that for, in Malaysia, the local company, they've managed to like make their chicken or whatever. They give one, they always get like 2 companies and they give half of them, like one of them half the recipe and the other half of it. And so like, yeah, so they like, no one knows the full recipe, you know what I'm saying? They mix and match kind of to protect their patent, their IP, which is interesting, So like, I wonder how these conglomerates work with vaccines. Once they get it, do they share it? Do they patent it? Do they keep the ingredients? And then there's like the logistics of having a machine just going like, or whatever,
yeah.
That was a conveyor belt.
Yeah. Vaccine machine.
We should definitely look into it, but anyways, I digress. KFC, yeah, shoot.
Well, since we mentioned KFC, I should probably just launch right into today's story. It plays very well with this week. It's Christmas, so I thought I would talk about a Christmas tradition, which is very unconventional. It's KFC in Japan.
Oh, okay.
It's KFC for Christmas. I don't know if you know about this because of your Japanese connections.
My Japanese connection? No, I don't, but I'm interested and fascinated.
So having KFC for your Christmas dinner in Japan is a huge thing.
Oh, really?
It's massive, absolutely massive. It's a huge phenomenon. So I'll tell you a bit about how it all started.
Yeah.
It's totally random, but very Japanese because they're very good at like taking something Western or foreign and then adapting it to their local circumstances and making it their own
Yeah.
special thing.
Yeah.
I've never been to Japan, but that's what I understand Japanese to be very good at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
why not? That's a nice stereotype. So yeah, Japan doesn't normally celebrate Christmas, right? It's like 1% of the population is Christian. They
Yeah.
had no real Christmas traditions, as far as I'm aware. Probably had an understanding through, American culture, TV, whatever. Watching Christmas movies and that sort of thing.
Sure.
But in the like 60s and 70s, it was much less of a thing. And there
Yeah.
were expats, there were foreigners from the West living in Japan because Japan was starting to take off and have its post-war boom, right?
Yeah.
And they were kind of missing out on their turkey and their Christmas meal they typically would get.
The GIs or
the GIs, the people who are
workers.
helping to make Japanese American products in Japan. I don't know. So this coincided with the arrival of KFC in Japan. So the first KFC outlet or chain started in 1970.
Wow. Okay.
It was started by a guy named Takeshi Okawara. Is my pronunciation okay?
I don't know.
Takeshi, how's your Japanese?
0. It's limited.
Yeah, Japanese is pretty straightforward. I thought Takeshi Okawara. I'm struggling with that one. Anyways, I'll call him Takeshi.
Yeah.
He was the manager and the operator of the first KFC store in the country, the restaurant. Yeah. And at the beginning, actually, it did terribly. It did really, really bad. You would kind of expect, KFC, no problem. People know what it is. But in Japan, people had no clue what KFC was. And when they saw the restaurant, they were really confused. It was red and white, had this guy with a beard and glasses. Yeah. They thought it was a barber shop. And
I get that, yeah.
When they would go in, they're like, are you selling chocolate? Like, what do you do? Yeah. And people would kind of just pass it by. And he really struggled because he really went out on a limb to make this. And he was on the verge of homelessness. He apparently was sleeping on the bags of flour because to save money on rent, he just stayed inside his KFC. And it really wasn't taking hold in the country. So
he was the first franchise owner, I guess, in Japan.
First franchise owner. I'm not sure how that came about, but I'm sure there's a backstory there.
Yeah, totally.
But what saved it was apparently he was a very lucky dude because he overheard some expats and foreigners in Japan complain around Christmas time that they couldn't get their turkey for Christmas, and they're really feeling homesick without their traditional meal. Yeah. So he thought, well, I serve an American chain's food. It's chicken. That's close enough. Why don't I start marketing that? And so he made a promotion at his store during Christmas time that year, and it was a huge hit. People really took to it, and it even got like a national attention. So the national broadcaster, I think it's called NHK. Yeah, it's the BBC, the CBC of Japan. They came down to his restaurant and they interviewed him, and they're like, "Oh, this is very interesting, Mr. Takeshi Okawara. Yeah. Can you tell us, is this like a big thing in the West that you're bringing to Japan?" And he was like, "Yeah, it is." So he admits to this day that it was a lie. He just like, yeah, it's a thing. Exactly, whatever. And so people heard this broadcast, and he started to think, well, if it's a big hit, I got the media attention, I want to make this a national thing. Yeah. And so by 1974, he made a marketing slogan called Kurisu Masu ni wa Kentucky, which means Kentucky for Christmas.
Okay, cool.
And I guess by that point, there was a few more KFC chains because his chain started to take off after that promotion, and it became a huge hit. What happened in his store was repeated in all the other KFCs across the country at that point. There probably were
Yeah.
like 50 or something.
Yeah.
And it saved KFC in Japan. Like if it wasn't for this Christmas promotion, it was probably going to be a failed venture,
Wow.
and maybe would have tried again in 20 years or something. But it's now a massive, massive thing.
Yeah.
So initially, it was just selling the typical bucket of chicken and fries, like most people know, which is super delicious and a terrible sin.
It's like crack, man. It's so good. Yeah.
It's delicious. It's my guilty pleasure. Whenever
Oh.
the missus is out of town for something, I'll order KFC. Uh,
So
it's
good.
confession time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So bad. It's so bad, but so good.
So
Um,
good.
but now it's like a huge, huge thing in Japan, and they have like a premium offering
Oh,
that costs up to $60 for this huge Christmas dinner, where you
yeah.
get like an actual. Apparently, it's a roasted chicken,
Okay.
not like a deep fried whole chicken.
That's not
You get
good.
the coleslaw, you get some shrimp, a tiramisu. Apparently, there's also booze sold with it in Japan. There's like
Okay.
wine or beer or even whiskey at some special branch in
Wow.
Tokyo.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if this is true, but it's repeated in a bunch of the news articles about it. But it says that the Christmas sales for KFC in Japan account for a third of KFC Japan's yearly sales.
Wow.
It's
So it's like
massive.
really caught on, huh? Like
Yeah.
everyone knows about it. Wow.
And you have to make your orders super early. They start early November,
Yeah.
and you're encouraged to make your order very, very soon, because you can't just show up on the day and say, I want my Christmas
Yeah. Yeah.
KFC, because
Yeah.
the massive lineups are for the people who've ordered it in
Pre-order.
advance.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's also kind of weird and convenient that Colonel Sanders looks a bit like Santa Claus.
Yeah. That's
So
true.
the weird thing is, he's apparently supplanted Santa Claus in Japan
Yeah.
As Santa Claus. They dress him up in the red and white. He doesn't have the full beard. He just looks like the what the brand looks like.
Yeah.
But that's the association, I think, in Japan. And the colors of KFC are red and white. It's somewhat Christmassy.
Christmassy.
So there's a lot of factors that were kind of lucky and fortunate, but also very convenient for making it the number one thing.
I
So it's a big tradition, super
Yeah.
popular,
Yeah.
and the thing is, it's like here in the West, most people they spend weeks preparing, and they get stressed out. They buy all the different
Totally.
fancy foods they need to buy for this one big day, and they spend
Yeah.
hours cooking, and they have a huge meal with all the family. But in Japan, it's just a normal working day, as far as I know. It's not a national holiday, right? Why
Yeah.
would it be? So
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense just to have a fast food thing as a token
Yeah.
celebration, right?
Totally. I mean, like, I think as you explained the story, so I used to live in Japan. I was born there, and so my parents lived there 7 years, whatever. It's 5 7 years. Yeah, yeah. So the Japanese people, I definitely understand. Like, they're usually like culturally, they're very open to like they adapt things from other like from the West a lot. They're really into pop
Mm.
culture, so I can see that aspect of it. That something's popular in America and it comes over. And at the same time, they like work a lot and they live in really small homes. Like, so, as you said, preparations for the holidays here in the West are weeks, if not months in advance. And, having mom cook the turkey takes like the entire day and prep and space and this and that. Whereas ordering something out seems more conducive to the environment and to the lifestyle. So I totally see it. It's like the square fits into the square peg. So it works. And just like on top of that, like it's just so good. I cannot explain.
It's just so
Like,
good.
if like because like I think I try not to eat junk food or fast food a lot, but of course I do once in a while. And my favorite is fried chicken. I have to admit, like McDonald's has nothing on fried chicken, and like it's just like have you ever had KFC in other countries around the world? Like, have you had it in different places?
I've had it in India.
Yeah. Constantly.
UK, Netherlands. I don't know in Hungary. I don't remember having KFC in Hungary. Yeah. Uh,
I
yeah.
with,
What's it
is
like
it
in Malaysia?
comparable? Well, okay. So I've had KFC in different places around the world too, and there is a standard. Like when you walk into any KFC, there's that smell. You know that woof. It just
Just
there's that
Greece.
yeah, this grease, those nine herbs and spices and hydrogenated trans fats, like it just whoops you. So like I used to eat it like when I was younger in high school. I used to have it a lot when I was just like 16 and I could eat anything I wanted and nothing would happen, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
stopped doing it because I understand how bad it was. And like I've had it in Malaysia where I found that like their standards weren't actually that high. So like a lot of the chicken would be not cooked all the way through, which was
Oh,
kind of
really?
gross. And like no one complained because it was like a national thing. Like people like their chicken, I guess, or to be like,
Medium rare.
yeah, which I'm not a fan of. Medium rare for steak, no problem,
Hmm.
but completely cooked for well cooked for chicken. So I
Yes,
didn't
please.
really enjoy. So we changed when we lived in Malaysia. We actually used to go to something called Texas chicken, which is Church's chicken here in North America. So it's the same company. So like so their chicken was really good. I had a KFC in Morocco when I was living there too,
Yeah.
and it was so good. And the city I lived in Fez, they didn't have it, but they had it in Marrakesh. So like
Road
the
trip.
time, yeah, the time we went to Marrakesh for the day, I actually bought a bunch of chicken. I brought it back and I shared with some family friends, with some friends and everyone else, and it was so good. Like it's that bucket, that like nice bucket with like 20 pieces in it and stuff.
I don't go
Delicious.
that far. I normally
No,
get
no, not for one person. I mean for a group of people.
Okay. Okay.
What do you get? What's your go-to at KFC? Like a two or three piece with fries and a biscuit or something?
Yeah, I've changed. I used to just go with a standard two or three piece meal with fries and Pepsi, but
Yeah. Oh,
now my standard is the hot wings, and
oh,
I go crazy for those.
isn't like don't you think like having soda with fried chicken is like the best combination?
It's
Like
amazing.
how do they figure that out? It must be the fat and the sugars just like somehow balance themselves out. I mean, they both are killing you, but they're just doing such a great job at
It's
the
just so
moment.
nice. Um, and the weird thing is, yeah, in the UK, there's like a real, I don't know what to call it, like a fried chicken culture.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah, totally.
there's pub culture, and then after the pub, people probably didn't have dinner. So they just wander over to these, like,
Yeah,
they're all KFC knockoffs. They all have
yeah, yeah,
like the
yeah,
similar logo, similar branding, but it's called like, Louisiana fried chicken, Alabama fried, they call it anything but KFC, but they'll have
yeah.
like ripoffs. And it's like, yeah, definitely not to the same standard, but people will pay because it's so cheap and so good.
It's totally. I get
And
that. There,
I fell victim to that a lot on Friday nights after the pub, and I didn't care. It
it's
was
so
worth
good.
it.
And like,
Um,
uh, oh, so good. I want some now, but I shouldn't eat it because I'm trying to be a little bit
Sorry
more.
to give you the cravings,
No,
but
no, no.
let me ask you though. I assume you don't do anything that special for the 25th. Like, what did you do growing up, and what was your family's reaction when everybody in Canada, all the Canadian white people are doing their
Sure.
turkey things? What do you guys do?
Sure, sure. So yeah, we're Muslims, so we don't
Hmm.
celebrate Christmas. But I mean, we grew up in Canada, so I know of it. So our thing was more Thanksgiving and New Year's. We did
Okay.
Christmas a little bit growing up, like when we first got here, and the for like 10 years afterwards, we had a Christmas tree and like presents and like food was kind of like sometimes we do a turkey, but kind of imitate. But our thing was we shifted more to New Year's, which was more of like a non-religious holiday, but like a holiday. So like, we do the whole and Thanksgiving, which is a big thing for us too. Yeah, we don't really give thanks for anything. We just sit around and eat.
Just yeah, just eat.
But turkey is delicious for us. Like my mom cooks a big turkey. We do all the sides and the stuffings, as well. I've been to people's houses, I think, for Christmas or for Christmas holidays, and it's really nice too. They're really, really accommodating. The food is good. I like the idea of people being together, which is a really, I mean, this year, no, but like, generally speaking, it's nice. But yeah, what about you? What did you guys do for Christmas? Like, what was a general Christmas meal for you? Break it down: breakfast,
Sorry.
lunch, and dinner.
We were
No one.
spoiled. It was super nice.
Oh, really?
What were you gonna say?
Now I was gonna say people always talk about the big Christmas dinner, but like, what about Christmas morning, like, and Christmas afternoon? Like, give me a play by play.
That was actually one of my highlights. obviously as a kid, Christmas morning, super excited because you don't know what Santa brought you, but also the breakfast was really nice.
Totally.
And I was not typically spoiled with um, like North American sugary things
Okay.
for breakfast,
Yeah.
but that was one time where
Just
I had my Fruit
pancakes.
Loops, and
Oh,
I've had Fruit Loops, and but there was these like variety packs of Kellogg's things you could buy, and there are these little things where you just pour the milk right in. I love those things. You could have a Fruit Loops one, um, corn
Kellogg's
pops,
corn flops. Yeah,
Frosted
yeah.
Flake. It had all of them, and I think I gorged on about three of them each
Yeah.
morning from a certain age.
Yeah.
Um, then when we got older, we had like champagne with orange juice, cinnamon buns, croissants, like really,
Yeah.
really nice things.
Wow.
Smoked salmon and eggs. Yeah, my mom was
That
really
sounds
good
good.
at doing all that. And we wouldn't have lunch because the Christmas meal would be around like, I think 4 or 5 o'clock,
Yeah,
and it would
yeah.
be a huge thing. So that would take us out for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And
And then
there's
you just
there's the
go into
tryptophan in the turkey, so it puts you to sleep.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, and my mom, she was really good. She was really organized and would spend the day stressing out about making the whole thing.
Yeah.
She would do the whole stuffing, Brussels sprouts, and yeah, the whole
Mashed
mix.
potatoes, cranberries,
Yeah,
stuffing.
yeah,
It's a
it was
lot of
really
work.
nice. A lot of
Props
work
to
to do.
like props to everyone who gets involved in making that stuff. It's a lot of work, like a lot of work.
Yeah, I guess the difference with our family, it was just us. So there's just me, my
Yeah.
sisters, and my parents. But most families have like cousins and
Yeah.
grandparents and everybody. So we would have our like phone calls home at a certain time. I think to the family in the UK,
Yeah.
just to say hello and thank you for the presents.
Yeah.
But it was nice. I really really enjoyed it, and yeah, I just really enjoy Christmas. The thing is, what I didn't enjoy was eating turkey for like a week afterwards,
Yeah.
because normally like a turkey would do well for people who had like extended family over, and then the thing would be more or less done after Boxing Day. But we had
Yeah.
this thing for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a week.
So did well, here's the thing is that I actually was telling my wife this the other day is that like so it was me and my sisters growing up, right? And so my mom would cut the turkey for whatever her Thanksgiving and New Year's, whatever it was. And so she'd like, she'd put it into containers into the fridge and you'd go at your leisure. And we actually enjoyed having turkey for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for at least 2, 3 days because reheated turkey was so good for us, you know? So like literally like breakfast, lunch, and dinner was turkey, 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 which is not great, but for your health, but it was good. But
It's okay.
it's okay. But one of the interesting thing is that like the fast food thing, it totally works in Japan and other places. I can totally understand because they have nothing to replace it with, like in lieu of, right? It's the primary thing. And if someone told me like, listen, if you pay $100, will I get you a turkey and all the fixings? Like it's a good sell. I understand you don't have to like starve yourself over an entire day of doing it, right? But it's interesting how.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's interesting how there's an expectation, I guess, in the West around what Christmas should be. Like you
Yeah,
should have turkey and like the potatoes and carrots and all the set meal. And
yeah,
if you don't get that, it's a disaster.
yeah.
Because like I celebrated Christmas with my family once. We went to Dominican Republic for
You read?
Christmas. We did like a. I'm thinking about that because of your background. And it was really weird for us because it was our first Christmas where it wasn't a traditional one by
Yeah,
any stretch. So we just had like the food, and they had like special food there. But then I realized, I just thought the whole world did what we do,
yeah.
and it made me realize, like, okay, you know, it's not a cookie cutter approach, and nor should it have to be. That's why it's cool that KFC is in
Yeah.
Japan for Christmas.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is I think if anyone has the ability to experience different cultures, different faiths, different ways of life, and different things, you can see the variety of things, right? And how people celebrate different things. And it's all, at the end of the day, it's all family and being together and being thankful, which is great. But like, for example, like as Muslims, we have a holiday called Eid. and I know you're familiar with it. You grew up in Ottawa with a lot of Muslims too. So for us, like my parents created a very special version of Eid because like we didn't really have any family growing up here either. It was just us. So like my parents would we'd go for prayer in the morning, and then when we got home, it would be like 9 o'clock in the morning, and they'd give us like dinner foods for breakfast, like rice, like curry, chicken, all this kind of stuff. And like, we're like, no, we want our corn pops and our corn
Yeah,
flakes
yeah.
and our Fruit Loops. And they're like, no, you gotta like check it out. So we eat this stuff, and of course it's delicious, but then you go into like a comatose state because you just pretty much have put
You
dinner
want to
into
nap?
breakfast. And then you nap, and then at night you go to someone's house and you do it again. But those are the memories, right? Those are the things we kind of remember and like had fun about. And then like you try to incorporate little things. But going forth, I'm for convenience, right? So going forth for whatever holiday it is, I would definitely and I put together parts of my wife's culture with my culture, with what our kids would want, with what my family, our families have, and just kind of make something that works together, because like I've spent time with friends where it's been a little unconventional, but it's still been fun, right? It's still been unique. Perhaps it's not like the sushi didn't go with the fried chicken or whatever it is, but then you get sushi and fried chicken. So like I'm adaptable, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is just to be adaptable. And it's just so cool to, like you said, experience different ways and cultures and ways of doing things. It made me also think of one time me and my girlfriend, we went to Austria skiing
Mhm.
around the week before Christmas. So I wasn't there at Christmas, but they had a bunch of Christmas celebrations in the ski village where we were.
Yeah,
And it was shocking. It was really shocking for us
weird,
because
huh?
in Austria and I think in a couple other countries, they have this thing called Krampus.
Yeah.
And it's something that, like, if you ever reach the, even Vienna, like the big cities, it would be controversial. Like, essentially what happened was our hotel said, go to the town square at like 6 o'clock. There's Krampus celebrations. And I was like, oh, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to go. It's something to do.
Yeah.
And what it turned out to be was, like, the town's teenagers would dress up in these scary costumes, and they were. I saw them. They were drinking beforehand. They stood put on these costumes, really terrifying masks, and they had whips. And
What?
once 6 o'clock came around, they just started whipping people, and it was all the people who had arrived, and they would whip
Oh my
people,
God.
and they would take the ladies. So they took away my partner, and they ran off. And I was like, "What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to?" So I like made an effort. I kind of like feigned an effort to go after her, and then they
Yeah.
whipped me in the back of in my calf,
What?
and it really hurt. Like they really attacked me.
Holy crap.
And I thought, this is a crazy celebration because they're assaulting people.
Oh my God. I'm looking at the photos now. This is scary stuff. This is like first
Yeah,
episode Island of the Dolls kind of scary
no.
stuff. Oh
I
my
would
God.
encourage our listeners, please check out Krampus. It's a terrifying ordeal if you ever have to go through it. I was genuinely a little bit scared because I thought, this is starting at 6. What's like the main event? Because
Yeah.
one guy tried to challenge the other Krampuses, and he got like beaten down by the rest of them. So
Oh
by
my
the end
God.
of it, we were like sheep being corralled into a corner, and we were all they won. We were just like huddled up together.
That's
And I'm like,
crazy.
is this a celebration? I'm not going to this thing again.
That's craziness. Wow. It's interesting. Like that's weird. Yeah, I just looked at the photos. It says half goat, half demon, right? Oh
Yeah,
my God.
it's a demon. So it's like totally, it's European, but it's
Yeah.
totally foreign to anybody in the UK, US, Canada. They would be lawsuits, right? People would be going
Left, right, and
crazy.
center. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
But yeah,
yeah, it's crazy. I think one of the things, well, in North America, I've realized that Christmas and the holiday season have become like a really high point for businesses and commercialism. So I think a
yeah,
lot of like if you look at it throughout the years, there's a lot. I mean, minus COVID on any regular year, starting kind of post American Thanksgiving, pretty much the entire month of December is focused on holiday stuff. So there's a lot of stuff built around making sure people have a turkey dinner, a Christmas morning presents, Boxing Day on, Boxing Day, what the hell is that? Like, like it makes no sense. And then New Year's and people stuff. So there's a lot of like interest invested in making things stay the status quo, right? If you look at it from I'm not conspiracy theorist here. I'm just saying, going out of the norm would probably be going against what a lot of businesses require and need and want during this time, right? So
Mm.
it's an interesting system that's been built into place. It's I think it's become very commercial, and perhaps uh, a lot of businesses have kind of captured that interest in it as well. But like if you look at it, one of the things I think that we do really horribly in the West is that we focus on the material around the holidays as opposed to kind of the family and the gathering. Because like most people will go into debt buying crap, right? And then like come January when they get their bill, they're like 2 grand, 3 grand in debt just
Yeah.
on the card, on the plastic. And everywhere you go, it's like 50% sales here, Amazon sales there, blah blah. What's it called? No, Boxing Day, which is pretty much like Black Friday. People go crazy and go buy televisions and like
Totally
blenders
crazy.
and
I was shocked when I was always shocked whenever I watched like the news on Boxing Day. They'd always send journalists out, some poor journalists, to interview
yeah.
people who had lined up at 4 or 5 in the morning to buy a television. I'm like, do these people not love their family? Like, why are they going out to go buy this stuff?
Yeah, it's
Like,
totally like
I often think that, it's really sad because I think the marketing is sort of preyed on people who genuinely need some of these things. They think they're getting a good deal,
I agree.
but in the end, they're just spending money they don't have. And like you said, they come around January, it's on their credit card, and it's really brutal.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I don't think the deals are extraordinary and like mind blowing either. If you do the math on these things, these companies and like the companies that sell these products, they're not morons, right? They're not going to sell something for underpriced or whatever. They've adjusted prices and they're making sure they're making a margin. They're
Yeah.
getting rid of stock and stuff like that. Because I remember for a couple of years, I used to go to like a Best Buy or a Future Shop on Boxing Day just to kind of see some of the deals, and really they're not that like great either, you know what I'm talking about, like and so I don't know. And plus, like, it's people just go hysterical when they go buy crust stuff. You've seen the videos where people like knock down other people, they break through windows, they like, they just go crazy. And it's just like the worst of humanity. You know what I'm talking about?
I mean,
So,
I'm glad they do that just for my YouTube entertainment value. I kind of enjoy watching those, but
on a side note, now that you have like online facilities for purchasing, such as Amazon, you really don't even need to go anywhere. Everything will be
no
delivered
way.
straight to your house. I got on a side note, I have to tell you. So before we got here last week, I'd bought a couple things in preparation for our arrival. Some stuff for the cats, some stuff we needed. And like by the time I got here, it was like ready in place, like, and like I just was fathoming that like 5 or 10 years ago, this would not have been the case. I even forgot, like, even on the day, like a couple days before I left, I was like, oh, I need some flea medicine for my cats. I give them flea medicine every 2 months. And I bought it and I chose the option of like getting it delivered the same day. And like it's crazy. It got here, Dave, at like the same day at like
On
10
Amazon, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. It was only couple extra dollars because I just I'm a little like I love my cats too much, But like, isn't it weird? Like stuff that you would have to get into a car or take public, like a bus to go to a store to buy to bring, like it just comes to your house on
But
the
this
same.
is the thing, though. It's like become a real challenge this year because there is no in-person shopping. Like
Yeah.
I've been watching. I live opposite like a postal outlet here,
Yeah.
and there's like the Post NL, like the National Post people.
Yeah.
They're running themselves ragged because everyone's ordering Amazon and online stuff.
So
And the poor guy, I mean, well, he could probably like qualify for the Tokyo Olympics next year because he's super fit.
Yeah.
But they're super backlogged as well. Like they've issued things in the news saying, don't expect everything to be on time anymore. We just cannot deal with the sheer amount of demand because I'm sure Amazon is ramping up like crazy. If there's job losses in many parts of the economy right now, but Amazon is probably like hired a shit ton of warehouse workers,
seasonal workers for warehouses. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to think to get what you got in that space of time, I'm sure there's tons of other people making that same choice. Like, oh, I want to make this order, and until they get their little drone things flying the gifts around, it's
crazy.
wild.
I was just on Amazon earlier today, just looking at a couple stuff. I just added to the cart. I don't buy it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But like it's insane that you can get pretty much anything you want on this website or a website, and you can have it delivered to you. And like they've done all the work for you. You know, all you have to do is pretty much just click, and it just goes on the plastic. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy to think, because I think the more you think about it, I think it's more of a negative than a positive in society, for business, for humanity. But like, and during COVID times, it totally makes sense for people to be like, listen, I can just do everything sitting here, you know, and then I'll still be in debt come next month, but it'll get to my house by this time or this time, right?
Yeah,
It's
totally.
but I was going to ask you one thing quickly. You and I, we both traveled a lot. What has your experience been with Western fast food chains overseas, generally speaking? Like whatever, you choose your poison, whatever it was. Like, has it been unique? Have you? I always seem to compare it back to the Western
Oh,
version of it. So like, it's
yeah.
you know,
No, it's interesting. I think McDonald's is the gold standard, of course.
one hundred
Um,
percent.
but what is interesting in going to like international McDonald's branches um, is that they always seem to try and have like a one or two local things on the
Yeah,
menu, and
yeah.
I think that's kind of cool. I know it's a big multinational, whatever, but
It's
the
very
fact that
good.
they actually have these things on the menu, like in not
Yeah.
Turkey, in Hungary, where I lived,
Mhm.
they had a foie gras burger, which
Yeah.
is insane because actually in Hungary, foie gras, you think of it as a French thing, but it's quite a big thing in Hungary. And I was like, this is mind blowing. It's something that people think of as like fancy food, but it's in their burger. How
100%.
unhealthy can you be?
In Malaysia, they're big on fried chicken. They had fried chicken with Malaysian spices
Yeah.
at their McDonald's. I was in Dubai, and they had like Emirati Arab. I forgot what it was, like a wrap or something, but more with, I think, their spices or something on it. And
I think in Canada they have a lobster one once in a
they,
while, like in the
they
East
could,
Coast.
yeah. And they used to have in Canada. In Canada, they used to do a lot of stuff like related to Canadian culture, like a hockey burger and like
Yeah.
this and that. Because you know, there's a team of people sitting at McDonald's headquarters coming up with this garbage, you know, and like it's craziness, you know. I had this thing where so I do this when I was living in Turkey, I realized that there were a shitload of Starbuckses everywhere I went, which was strange for a country which is really prideful of their own
Mm.
Turkish coffee and
Turkish
stuff.
coffee.
Yeah, but the Starbucks is always used to be packed with young people in it, and like they were always full. And I read this article about how Starbucks came in a few years ago at a time, a crucial point in coffee culture in that country, where people didn't want to sit and have their coffee anymore. They wanted something more unique and takeaway, and a place to sit, and like a little bit more cultural. And Starbucks fulfilled that demand of it, you know. And so like, even my sister, I remember we were in Turkey a few years back. We were all going for breakfast, and she went off and she got Starbucks. And I said, "Why'd you get Starbucks? There's Turkish coffee here." And she's like, "No, it's Starbucks." You know what I'm saying?
It's true. People just that's the power of it. Their brands are just magnets. Because but I think
Huge.
part of it is just people are comforted by knowing they've had it somewhere else. They know it's okay. And when you're traveling somewhere different and strange, they don't want to get sick or go
Venture
out on a
off too
limb.
much.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and in a way it's sad, but in a way it fulfills that need, which is important. And I'm guilty of trying that stuff too. So
Yeah.
um,
I've done it's been the McDonald's which, oh, those fries, man. Speaking of like stuff that like makes me feel at home,
oh,
they
you're
put
killing
must
me.
they must put like heroin or something in them. It's so
Next
I
week I'm getting KFC and McDonald's.
at McDonald's. This you could do it for Christmas on Friday.
No, I'll get in big trouble.
Yeah, it's the McDonald's. That's been a strange one. It's been Starbucks. It's been KFC. It's there's a lot of places. You know, interestingly enough, I looked into franchises just out of interest and stuff. The franchises for McDonald's and KFC are crazy expensive. Like McDonald's, and I think McDonald's is like over 1 million, and KFC might be over 1 million too. Like that you have to have in net worth, and then like the amount of money that you put in liquid assets, like you have to have in liquid assets, has to be crazy. And then the franchise fee. Some of these companies are made. Some of these people who are taking on are not not like just normal people. They're very rich people. So running a franchise of these big brands takes a lot of energy and time and money.
Yeah, and I've there's that movie, The Founder, the Big Mac,
Yeah, yeah.
the
McDonald's
Ray,
one,
Ray is it Ray
Ray Kroc.
Ray Kroc?
Yeah,
Um, it's a really good movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out, because it goes into the business model and like the founding story of McDonald's.
Yeah.
But like at the end, I think it's not a huge plot spoiler because
Yeah.
it's about McDonald's. It just tells you like that they make so much of their money from their real estate, because I think they are the owners of
Yeah.
each French bit of land that they have there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
when you do something like McDonald's, like so like McDonald's, like say for example, Dave, you wanted to open a McDonald's in the Netherlands, so like you would be responsible for buying that franchise, like going to McDonald's University and
Yeah.
wherever it was in America to learn, to train your staff, and then like you have to give a percentage of all your profits to HQ, to the headquarters and stuff. So like they'll train you and they'll give you all this stuff, but at the end of the day, like you're making money for yourself but for someone else as well, right? And it's like from a business point of view, it's super intricate, like super well built for the beneficiary, for the main office right there. But on the other hand, it's such a well-known and established and good business model that like it's not something unique that you're doing. It's very common, like it's a safe bet, for example, right? So
Yeah. Well, let's go canvassing for some money and get one.
Let's do it, McDonald's. Let's smell it. Yeah. Anyways, I don't know. So what do you? So now that I was going to ask you, what are you going to do for Christmas on Friday? Right? It's just a couple days away, and the New Year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very different Christmas this year, as with most people.
Yeah.
So for Christmas Eve, there's a lot of restaurants in town which have offered like Christmas menus.
Oh.
So we've ordered a Christmas menu for Christmas Eve. So we're going to a friend's place and having that.
Okay. What's like? Is it traditional foods or typical Christmas Eve
Yeah,
foods?
it's actually from a French bakery, but they have I guess.
Speaking of heroin, that's amazing. Huh?
Yeah. So the French bakery is making French food for the Christmas meal, and yeah, there's also like a Swedish restaurant which is doing a Swedish. Every country has it having its thing.
Interesting.
But we're going with French, and then on Christmas Day, I'm in charge. I'll be doing a roast chicken.
Nice.
Turkey is too big for two people, so I'll do roast chicken.
Roast chickens are easy to cook too. I know how to do a roast chicken.
Inshallah.
You can stick it in 450 for 3 hours. Turkeys are hard. You got to baste them and all that stuff. It's a lot of work, huh?
Yeah, and I don't think our oven's big enough to handle a turkey.
Are you going to do the fixins, the sides and stuff?
Yeah, that's my stress point, because I can cook each one of these things individually, but it's like the combination and getting them all on the plate and having them at the same temperature is where it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Like making sure the potatoes are done properly, the veg, the gravy, the meat, the sides. I'm really bad at the coordination aspect. I mean, I'm a pretty good cook, but to do something like this is going to be a challenge. So, wish me luck.
And are you guys, so because you're in lockdown, right? Like not lockdown, but like you're pretty much can't do anything. What about for New Year's? Is anything happening then, or
we're going
you're
to
just gonna eat the leftovers?
Yeah, we'll be eating the leftovers until New Year's. Then we're going to a friend's place to celebrate. But it's a very small group of people. It's not a legal gathering. Please don't prosecute me. No. It's totally within the rules. So yeah, that's the plan. The thing is that they've banned fireworks because the Dutch,
they love it.
They love it. But they all do it independently. Like they all load up on their own stash and they go crazy. They get drunk and just shoot them off. And the reason is so dangerous. Like the hospitals get overwhelmed on regular New Year's because they just blow off their fingers and get a firework in the eye. And so they banned fireworks this New Year. So it'll be interesting to see if any go off. I'm pretty sure they will.
Yeah. Well, please be safe, keep distance, wear a mask. I mean, we're kind of near the end of this thing, but not really. So
not really.
We still have to there. But I hope to our listeners, have a safe holiday season if it is the holiday season for you. But if not, just be safe, generally speaking. And thanks for listening. We'll be back in January.
Oh yeah, we're taking a break, taking some time off. So thank you. Enjoy your break, everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, and happy holidays to non-denominational.
Yeah, that's right. Non-denominational.
So many words.
There you go. And we'll see you in the new year.
See you in the new year.